I'm Sadie Guinness, and I'm going to break down everything you need to know about the Elliot Stabler spinoff. This is his story. Chung chung! In March, it was announced that Chris Meloni would be reprising his Law & Order role for a new NBC show that would follow Stabler heading up the NYPD's organized crime unit. But before we dig into everything we know and hope to see in the spinoff, it has been almost a decade since we last saw Stabler. So let's do a quick refresher on everyone's favorite human embodiment of Catholic guilt. Meloni starred on SVU's first 12 seasons as Elliot Stabler, whose friendship and partnership with Mariska Hargatay's Stabler-Benson was the show's biggest hook at the time. Meloni shocked viewers in 2011 when he announced he was not going to be returning to SVU for the 13th season after negotiations with the studio fell apart. I did not think the show could go on, but it has thrived. As a result, the season 12 finale doubled as Stabler's last episode, and it was a brutal one. The episode ended with a young girl deciding to avenge her mother's murder by trying to kill the perps who were in the SVU holding cell. During the chaos, she fatally shot Sister Peg, and Stabler was forced to kill the girl before she could take any more lives. The season 13 premiere revealed that Stabler had been put on administrative leave by Internal Affairs after the shooting.
Is Stabler coming back?
It's up to him.
The investigation eventually cleared Stabler of any wrongdoing, but because this was Stabler's sixth lethal shooting, he was told that he would have to undergo a psychological evaluation, take anger management classes, and allow IAB to review his entire personnel file if he wanted to keep his job. First of all, the fact that IAB only ordered Stabler to face these consequences after 6 shootings is unconscionable. And maybe had Meloni stayed on SVU, they would have used this incident as a catalyst to directly reckon with Stabler's issues with anger and violence on the job. However, because Meloni left the show, we'll never know. Making matters worse, the series decided to end Stabler's story with him defiantly retiring from the force.
Elliot put his papers in.
Rather than showing him be held accountable for his actions, further playing into the glorification of the above-the-law hero cop. It was a pretty unfortunate way to say goodbye to this character. And even showrunner Warren Leight, who took over SVU for the 13th season, has said that Stabler deserved a real goodbye arc. While Meloni has said he bears no ill will toward the show, he's also said that he has no regrets about leaving SVU when he did. This is why Meloni's return is so shocking to fans, who long ago were forced to accept that Meloni has zero plans on returning to SVU. The original plan was for Stabler to first return in SVU's season 22 premiere, but now those plans have likely changed given organized crime's delay. Whenever Stabler does return, the most important thing that needs to happen is for the spinoff to not just show a reformed Stabler, but for the show as a whole to be actively and outspokenly against police violence. And during an interview on The Jess Cagle Show, Meloni did promise that when we do see Stabler again, we will see him grappling with the realities of policing in ways we haven't seen before.
I think he's going to be coming back into a world that I think, as we're all experiencing right now, has really changed with policing and the citizenry. I think those are all issues to address in the show, and I think it's going to be a challenge for Elliot, one that I think he'll meet.
This does not mean that Stabler will suddenly not be flawed. In fact, the more the series is willing to address his problematic past, the more honestly it may be able to tackle the real deep-seated issues in the NYPD and start to explore what positive police reform could look like. But TV should never glorify cops who commit acts of abuse and brutality, especially if it is portrayed as doing the wrong thing for the right reason, something SVU showrunner Warren Leight touched upon in an interview with The Hollywood Reporter.
I don't mind a flawed cop at the center, but a flawed cop with a tendency to violence who's glorified, to me, is a real recipe for legitimizing police brutality. That's what I see the most that disturbs me.
While Leight is not going to be overseeing organized crime, I do hope that those in charge, including showrunner Matt Olmstead, are paying attention to what Leight is saying and the way the SVU team is publicly committing to using their platform to tell stories that reflect the realities of police brutality, systemic racism, and implicit bias. There is room for a Stabler spinoff on TV, but only if it makes these same commitments to viewers. As we wait to learn more, I already have so many thoughts on what I want to see in the Stabler spinoff. The first being answers about where the hell he has been. It has been 9 years since we last saw Stabler, and SVU hasn't given us any updates about where he's been. We know that he's apparently returned to the force and is now leading up organized crime, but how long has he been there? And if he's at the NYPD again, why hasn't he stopped over to say hi to his friends? Did not even show up to Munch's retirement party. Rude. My best theory is that Stabler probably did some work as private security or a government contractor, got a little disillusioned, and went back to the force for organized crime. And I can definitely see him wanting to escape his life and just finding any excuse to go undercover for a while, which if we see Stabler undercover in the mob, Flashbacks. And heading up organized crime really does seem to be a perfect fit for Stabler, who will finally be able to take down bad guys without like projecting his children onto every victim and seeing his father in every abuser. And like seeing himself in everyone too. Family has always been such a big part of who Stabler is though, which is why we can't imagine this spinoff without at least recurring appearances from his wife Kathy and 5 kids. According to Warren Leight, the SVU season 21 finale was supposed to help set up Stabler's return by bringing back Kathy and one of their sons, although Leight didn't say whether it would be Dickie or Eli.
And we were going to see Kathy Stabler come back very upset. Her son has been rolled by a team of ne'er-do-wells and may have been drugged. And we're going to revisit Simon's seeming overdose. And we were going to get to know the stresses on the Stabler family after Elliot both left SVU and apparently left them.
And yes, you did hear that right. Stabler apparently left his family. Bastard! But whether that means he and Kathy are no longer together, if he left temporarily to go undercover or something, I have no idea. The official description for organized crime does reveal that Stabler will be rebuilding his life after a devastating personal loss, so I'm just hoping that the whole Stabler family is okay. Unfortunately, SVU was forced to shut down production due to the coronavirus, so they weren't able to shoot the anticipated finale, which would have provided our first clues as to what Stabler's been up to. While it's a shame that the planned episode featuring Stabler's family return had to get scrapped, the fact that they were even supposed to appear in the finale makes me hopeful that they'll be a part of the spinoff in at least some fashion. And like, who knows, maybe the spinoff will finally introduce Stabler's brothers and sisters, or even give us the very overdue return of his mother, Bernadette.
That's the price we pay for greatness, honey.
When we do see Stabler again, I'm really hoping we see a new and improved version of this character. And according to Meloni, that is exactly what we're gonna get.
I think, age, mellowing in how he went about doing his job. He has evolved. I think he's in a good place now with his family. I think he's at a much better place with himself vis-a-vis the world.
And while Stabler has a well-established distrust of psychologists and psychiatrists, it would be really interesting to see Stabler in therapy on the show. That way we could actively watch him try and bridge the gap from the brutal detective we saw in SVU and what will hopefully be a more progressive version of this character. And of course, the top item on our Stabler spinoff wish list is for it to have a ton of crossovers with SVU. Probably the easiest way to do this would be through the courtroom, which opens up so many exciting possibilities on its own. Just imagine if Carisi had to come face to face with Stabler while working a big gang case, or if the spinoff brought Barba back for a special appearance. Imagining Barba and Stabler sparring just gives me chills. But of course, the most exciting potential crossovers would be between Stabler and his old coworkers at SVU. Of all the characters on SVU whose time actually overlapped with Stabler, the only 2 left remaining are Finn and Benson, who just so happen to be the 2 we'd want to see Stabler interact with the most.
I know he didn't do it!
Finn and Stabler often clashed on SVU, and it would be so nice to see them reuniting now and reflecting on their past and affirming the respect they have for each other and how much they've changed. I know the only reunion fans care about is Benson and Stabler, myself included in that. That's where the money is. That's what we've been waiting for. Their relationship was the heart and soul of SVU's first 12 seasons, and fans have been begging for a reunion ever since he left. Meloni and Mariska are close friends in real life and have posted a ton of cute reunion selfies over the years, but knowing we're actually gonna get the real thing, over the moon. I forgot my script. I'm too excited. However, this reunion might not be a happy one. While Benson has referenced Stabler a few times over the years, none of her comments make it seem like he's a big part of her life anymore. Plus, Meloni told the New York Post that when they do reunite, Benson and Stabler will have a lot of unresolved emotions that they'll have to work through, including when it comes to the complexity of how Stabler left. How the 2 shows fill in the gaps in Benson and Stabler's relationship really could make or break not only this reunion, but Stabler's return to TV as a whole. If they up Benson and Stabler's relationship, no one is gonna want to see him. If it were up to me, I would have the reunion be bittersweet with Benson and Stabler bonding, maybe over being parents now, but then also having serious talks about why their relationship maybe drifted apart and how they have each changed in all of these years. The Benson we know now would never put up with the stuff Stabler did back in the day, and nor should she. And in season 16, Benson even told Amaro,
I grew more in my last 4 years with you than I did in the 12 years that I was with him.
Thank God Stabler was not around to hear that, because that and cut deep. If the Stabler we see in the spinoff has grown as much as Benson has and is able to reflect on his past with perspective, this could provide such a beautiful opportunity for the two to begin rebuilding that close bond and finding like a new dynamic that maybe isn't based so much in like Benson having to keep Stabler in line. Although there are times when Benson goes off the rails. At least there used to be, not anymore. There's so much I want to see in Benson and Stabler's relationship in the spinoff, but one thing I absolutely never want to see is the two get together romantically. The tension between Benson and Stabler is what makes their relationship pop, and the second they get together, like that all goes away. Like these two would never work, it would fall apart, it would ruin everything. Don't ever do it. And also, like, do not try and give Stabler a Benson replacement. I don't want to see him with like a coworker, best friend that like mimics that Benson-Stabler dynamic because it's impossible. Give him new coworkers with fresh and interesting dynamics that are unlike relationships we've seen Stabler have before. Don't try and replicate something that like frankly is impossible to do. Right now, we don't know what will bring Stabler back into Benson's life, but just the fact that we know the spinoff is coming after a decade without Stabler is enough to celebrate. Let us know what you want to see in the Benson-Stabler reunion in the comments below.